Hi, I'm Clyde, and this is Contents May Vary Maine. And of course, this is the real ruler of the show.
Oh, you're talking about me. Hi.
And it's Bill, by the way.
Yes, I'm Bill the Butler. How's it going?
I mean, he needs no introduction, really.
Obviously, for if you're watching this, thank you. You're one of the darn few, the proud, the watchers of the show. So, basically, what we talk about is modifying, repairing, or creating something for a solution. He's a maker. I'm a
Tweaker?
I didn't say tweaker.
No,
That's not the right word.
you could be a tweaker.
Tinkerer is the word I'm looking for.
He's a tweaker.
For example, this morning we came in and I realized I forgot our mic stands. So we had a mini competition to build mic stands. As you can see, he has his own mic stand made out of a camera tripod.
Well, no, you talk about yours first. I'll talk about mine. This is my competition over here.
The world's best mic stand.
Yeah, well, branding in two, because this is also the GTCA mug, which is available. That is the Genotyping Centers of America. It's a very special, very sought-after mug.
We got to set it down quietly so it doesn't spike. There we go.
And excellent microphone
And
stand.
I spent maybe 5 seconds building my mic stand. He, on the other hand, tell him what you did.
Well, you're talking about quick and dirty. I mean, look, I've got tape on the base of my tripod, okay, because it broke. But what I really did was I used zip ties and I attached it thusly.
And it works. I mean, I think mine is actually great because you can't see the mug if I aim it, if I hide it properly. There we go.
Well, against your black shirt.
Well, no, it's hidden behind the monitor.
Oh, no, it just looks like this thing trying to eat your face.
You can see the microphone, but you think, wow, how has Bill got this microphone suspended in midair?
Well,
It's the force.
it is the force.
It is the force.
I have some force, too.
I don't want to know. So today, we're going to first give him a chance to promote some stuff. Go promote.
Oh, well, if you haven't had a chance to do it yet, you can go to www.cleanscene.com and you can sign up or email us if you're interested in any of your executive commercial cleaning needs. What else? And of course, I also do Prototype This 3D, which we do have some shirts available online, not for PT3D specifically, but for the Maine Wild Blueberry.
We got to talk to our makeup people. My hair's a mess.
Yeah, I
Whatever,
know.
what little hair I have.
Do you want some of mine?
Is that possible? Because
I don't know.
I was thinking
maybe.
about going to Home Depot. They have a rug department.
Actually, I'm getting ready to order some chia seeds.
Ooh, the pottery that grows.
Yeah, I mean, it's useful. I mean, it's like if you get hungry, you just
I was
pull up
thinking either a
and
Sharpie or a nice black rug from Home Depot. I'm going to fix this problem right up.
I've got some black spray paint.
They say that CBD oil cures everything, so maybe I should start rubbing that on my head.
You know, somehow I don't think that jamming oil into your hair follicles is going to improve things.
They say it cures cancer.
They say a lot of things.
Yes, they do.
Some things are just not meant to be done. So,
Okay. I would like to encourage you to check out star977.com. It's the station in which I am the operations manager. We stream online. You can listen to my show Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, starting at 7 p.m. and ending at 6 a.m. the following morning. Saturday nights at 10 Eastern Time. You can check out Star 70s, my show where I play all kinds of fun songs from the 70s, and we have a good time and whatnot. Also, I'm a mobile DJ. If you live in the Down East Maine area, you can hire me, and you can find me on Facebook for that. All right, that's all I have for promotions for me. Obviously, we're starting this program. This is show number 2, and we need to have people watch it, so it's worth doing. So encourage your friends, your neighbors, total strangers, stop on the street and say, hey, there's this show on YouTube you need to watch. That would help us out a lot.
and if you'd like to be a sponsor,
Full throttle.
or
Full throttle, I drink it enough. You think they'd already be contacting me about sponsorship opportunities.
right, we also do accept sponsorship requests. So in the middle of our episode,
Your product here.
well,
or here.
we would
Okay.
do our normal thing that we're doing right now, and then we'd get to about halfway through it, and we would go, brought to you and sponsored by.
I don't think we'd go like. I think
that was the special effects.
We don't have any budget for special effects. I've got maybe
I can't. You can't
I have
even.
35 cents and a rubber band and some string in my pocket. I don't think that's a budget for special effects.
I've got some coins in my pocket,
Well, see what we have at the end of the show.
and I've got glitter. We could do sparkle fingers.
No. Though that was a nice Shazam reference.
I thank you very much.
And you didn't think I'd catch that.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so we're talking wiring. Why are we talking wiring? I remember why.
Because improper wiring.
That's true. But what actually happened is, as Director of Operations and unofficial studio engineer of Star 97.7, I am constantly fixing things. Yes, he has some wire cutters there. They're very nice. I'm impressed.
I call them nippers.
That's a good name for him. I had about 4 pairs of AKG headphones, and they're great headphones, but they cut corners in production by giving you exactly what you need for wires, which is fine, except that if they spent less than a penny extra on every 100 headphones and gave you another quarter inch or so of wire, whenever you used the headphones, you wouldn't be putting tension on these wires. And you had a term for that, didn't you?
Yeah, that was. Well, you talking about the part of the fat head syndrome?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Fat head syndrome is not a derogatory comment in any way. It does not pertain to the actual size of someone's head, nor does it imply that they are hydrocephalic in nature.
Kind of does imply.
Well, it does. It does. But what it really means is when people take off their headphones, it's not a eh, and then up. It's a hi, how you doing, and off. So what that does is it puts that extra strain on the speaker, especially the far speaker, because you got one wire going into this side, and it goes "I love you," and it goes right to the one section.
Actually,
and then it
2
goes,
wires. But
well, you know what I mean. And then the other wire goes across the headband and then goes into the other speaker. So you got all that potential for stress, and it's like when you're like grabbing that headset and go, you know, that's why I call it fat head syndrome.
And I forgot to bring a set of headphones that we're going to talk about from home that I modified because of such a fat head problem. So basically, if you ever happen to come across some AKGs, they're about $80 new, and they're a lot better than spending $300 on Beats. They're a great set of headphones. The only downside is after years of use, you may break a wire, and they're easy to disassemble. You have your wire cutter, and you got to have a wire stripper. Don't try and like cut it with a little blade, and I hate when people do that because usually they end up making a huge mess and cutting off strands of wire.
What about with your teeth? Like just got
that's bad too.
biting down and
Because then you still cut out pieces of wire and sometimes swallow them, which is probably not healthy.
that's not good. That'd be like an intestinal splinter.
Yeah. So once you strip the wire, you solder it on usually to the post, where it comes free. 9 times out of 10, when you have something wrong with a piece of equipment you have, if you poked inside, even a novice can spot a wire that's broken off. Am I right?
Yes. And it's always good to make sure that you're just slightly past flush when you do the wiring on a small PCB or speaker. That way you don't have a whole lot of extra because the wire is going to be brittle at that point anyway. So if you can get that shielding just as close to that tab as you can when you solder it, it's just makes for, nicer soldering.
The one caution I would offer you is if you're opening up a piece of equipment, some pieces of equipment, and I have a story that corresponds to this, carry a charge. Anyways, I was in college. I went to the New England School of Communications. At the time, it was known as the New England School of Broadcasting. And one of the classes talked about studio hazards, and one of which was that a broadcast turntable can carry a very significant charge even when unplugged. And I thought, that's nonsense. Well, they had a shelf, which was down about this high, but they put things underneath it. They had a turntable on it, and then underneath it, storage. So I'm fidgeting around while on air trying to find something, and I found the section of the turntable that carries a charge. Now, this turntable hadn't been used in a couple of years because really at this point, records and broadcasts were 5 or 6 years past its prime. Nobody really did it anymore. But there was still a charge, and I got quite a charge out of it.
And that explains the hair loss.
Yeah, before that I had an afro.
You did.
I did. It was beautiful.
I've seen pictures.
It's like the lighting in this room is like creating a highlight point of a bald area. It's awesome.
Well, I think it has something to do with the light above your head.
It could be.
Do you want to cut for a minute, and I'll powder your head so it doesn't like glare as much?
I think I'm going to wait till Halloween and get one of those Hannah Montana wigs. And then I'll have Fabio-like hair. I mean, I already look like him, so.
I mean, we could definitely do a wig episode. That could be interesting.
Making wigs with 3D printing.
You gotta have the head toss. In
Oh,
it, though.
yeah.
I'd like to get a mullet.
We'll get a fan set up, and I'll just stand there and it'll blow my hair. Okay, that is a Halloween episode right there.
I think that sounds like a plan. So, yeah, what's the benefit of doing your own wiring is...
Well, a lot of times people throw things out that work perfectly fine. Or they go and pay somebody big bucks to solder a wire inside of a piece of equipment. Again, caution. My personal philosophy is whenever you take a machine apart, is you do not want to ever use it again. You want to be prepared for it to die.
I think the something to take away from this is always buy two of everything.
No, I mean, if you have a piece of equipment that you've enjoyed for years and you're like, I should probably replace it, it's not working right, and you open it up and see a loose wire and that's why it's not working right, you're already going to replace it. What's it going to hurt to go in there and put the wire, solder the wire back on? Some words of caution, though, regarding joining wires.
Oh, you want me to say that?
We talked about it in advance.
Oh, well,
Okay.
I don't want to advance. Okay, so...
I wish this was alcohol.
So when
I don't drink.
when joining wires and not making Bill laugh while he's drinking his Monster full throttle.
Actually, they're owned by the same company. It's just better for you. It has less caffeine. It has some vitamins. One of the better for you energy drinks. Go ahead.
Okay.
Their free ad is done.
Doesn't eating grass help too? No, I'm sorry, just kidding.
If you want to go outside and eat some grass,
Moo. Anyway,
he's
so
a grazer.
I am
Not to lie to you.
I'm a little bit of a grazer, especially when there's a lot of food in front of me, and it's like, I don't feel that stress to like pile it on a
You
plate.
go to a salad bar and just
I see you said salad. You just turned me off right there.
grass is salad, man.
No, grass is grass. Salad is salad.
Okay, continue on with some cautions about wiring.
So there's a couple of different schools of thought on joining wires. Okay, number one is
They have to accept you first before you can join them.
Yes, they really do have to be accepting of you, and then you can join them, and we can all be one. So you can do I don't even know what the terms are for this, but there's the one where you like flare it out and then you stick it together so it's there, and then you spin it, and then you end up with like this inline splice that you can solder and then slide your shrink tube over.
Or electrician's tape, because not everybody uses shrink tube.
Or electrician's tape, but if you don't have shrink tubing, I recommend getting it because it's really cheap, actually.
There's actually a second method where you purchase a joiner. You put a piece of wire on one side, one on the other, and crimp them down, and they connect that way. But usually you have to have a lot of space for that. Continue.
Right, and this is the issue that we're talking about today, is that if you're monkeying around in a headset with a small PCB in a really narrow cavity, you're not really going to get the room that you need to wiggle around in, which is part of why they're cheap and they do that tight wiring anyway. But at the same time, it's also like, really? You don't want a loop back coil on it either, by the way, in a headset. That would be bad. But we'll get back to that, and Bill can tell you about that one. But the other method is just doing hey, let's survive. And that's you put the wires together, you spin them, you fold it back on the shielding, you wrap it with tape, you're done. So that would be the other. And there's mixed results on that one. Sometimes it works well, sometimes not so much.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to you at all. I was just thinking.
You were thinking?
I was staring at the camera thinking.
I had mentioned the loop back wire and why you shouldn't do that in a headset.
Why?
Oh, you don't want to answer that?
I put you in charge of that.
All right, so like if you start creating coils unnecessarily in a headset, for example, I mean, there's a certain amount of slack or strain relief you want in a headset, and then this could be complete BS too, by the way, because I don't know that there's any...
We're not professionals.
No.
Which is why this show is the way it is. Most people that are going to watch us are not professionals either. but you're interested in. I'd like to think you're creative too. You want to create something. You want to make it, modify something. As long as you're careful. Again, because remember, some things carry charges. I don't want you to be electrocuted or zapped, depending on how much charge it carries.
That's correct. And
Always proceed with caution. Learn about grounding. It's life saving. Go ahead.
so yeah, you don't want to like create extra like loops and coils inside your headset as extra wire or strain relief. It can create noise in your headset.
One of the headsets that I did repair, someone had repaired before me. And this person had put in, I want to say about an inch of wire, which there was room for.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a way different gauge, so it was fat.
Oh yeah, was it like that silicone wire too?
It was days ago, man. It was,
Oh,
it was
oh,
wire.
I'm sorry. Silicone wire is my favorite, just so you know, because it does this. It's like spaghetti, and you can beat people with it, and it hurts like crazy.
The bottom line is, it cramped the cavity for an inch that could have been done with a different gauge of wire. Try to match the gauge you're using, especially when working with headphones. I had a set of headphones that were given to me by my kids for Father's Day. They paid about $60 for them. They were nice, and I used them a lot. And they had a little coating on the headset, give it a sort of a velvety look. But that started to peel off, so I got rid of all of it. So it still looked good. I suggest if you start getting peeling on whatever coating, be it little pieces of felt or whatever that's on your headphones, either replace the earpieces. Usually you can buy from the manufacturer a replacement pad, or peel it off, because you're going to end up taking your headphones off and having these little pieces of stuff in your ear and looking stupid and dirty, even though you're not. This set of headphones, because of the fathead syndrome, you'd pull them off. Over time, it developed a crack right over the earpieces, and you could actually pull them off and then pull them up, which they're not designed to do. And it got to the point where you couldn't even keep them on. I couldn't keep them on my head because they would just fall off. So for a while, I just made them smaller because they could squish up and keep that break underneath the joint that connects it to the speaker in the headphone. But then that was at best difficult because now the headphones are sitting up higher on my head. They're not directly on my ears as they should be. So what I did, I super glued the plastic piece, but I knew it wouldn't hold. Super glue is great. You know, you watch commercial or watch their advertising, you'll see that they think they can hold up cars over your head with just a little super glue. That's nonsense.
Was that super glue or crazy glue?
Same thing.
Okay.
Anyways, it works, but
Sorry.
cough brought to you by Robitussin.
DM.
Now you made me cough. Where was I? Oh yeah. I knew that the more I used them, the more it would just simply break again. Super glue and plastic actually don't go well together. A lot of times it turns it into a mush and then dries this mush. Sometimes that works for you, sometimes it doesn't. What I did was I took a couple of wire ties like you did here, and I cut them into...
Frankenstein strips.
Yeah. I glued them on over the cut in the plastic and beyond. So it would give it a little bit more physical plastic that's a little bit flexible to hold it in place. I put 4 of them on each headset because there was 2 posts, one here, and then the other sides. And that was a year ago, still using the headphones.
And always go big to small, never small to big.
Make sense?
With wiring, I mean.
Yes. And that's one of the headphones I had the giant hunk of wire. I didn't take it out, I left it in.
I mean, when it works, it works.
We had 5 pairs of headphones that weren't working. In the end, I ended up with 3. And here's another reason why. Because I lost a set, and there's one I haven't repaired yet. One set had somebody that had broke the wire off directly on the post into the speaker. And they soldered it on. I guess they didn't like their soldering job, so they heated it up with a soldering iron instead of using a desolderer, but that works. It's just you have to put a little tension on the wire, and they put tension on the post, which caused the post to dislodge. So when I came in there to repair it, I touched the post and it fell off.
That's on the
Now-
back of a speaker. You know how most speakers have that little
Two
tiny
posts.
metal
Little
plate
metal
and the
posts, yeah.
2 posts on it and the 2 wires that go into the cone. So just in the magnet, whatever.
And excuse me, I could have. I tried wiring to what was left of the post. I couldn't solder it just to see if it would still work, and I couldn't even get sound out of the speaker anymore. And I figured I could mess around with this, or I could say, you know what, a spade's a spade. These gave us 10 years of good service. Let's introduce them to the recycle bin.
But we wouldn't be here if it wasn't,
As the gambler says, you have to know when to hold them, and know when to fold them.
No, I prefer to walk away, thank you.
Know when to walk away, but know when to run.
I would have to run if I was winning.
You never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
That's just rude.
Just time enough for counting when the dealing's done.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Rogers.
Yep. I saw him in concert once.
He's one of those artists that he's a country guy, but he actually had a couple rock songs. Early in his career, he did a band called The First Edition, and he had just dropped in to see what condition my condition is in, and it's 1969, I think. It's not a country song in any capacity. But he had a lot of crossover appeal. He had a song written by one of the Bee Gees, Barry Gibb, wrote Islands in the Stream.
And that was before he was shaving his sideburns behind his ears, right?
I pay attention to the music, not the man.
Oh,
not the
sorry.
looks.
Well, I mean, he had a very,
Do I?
I don't know. I'm guessing not. I'm trying to think. Oh, so worst soldering, hardest time soldering job you've ever had? 'Cause
I've ever
I have a
had?
good one.
Hmm.
Okay, you think about that. So, if you guys didn't know, from episode 1, and if you haven't watched that, you should. I do 3D printing and laser cutting and other stuff as well. Well, one of the things that I had to do at one point was I got a new 3D printer, and the heated build plate ended up developing a broken wire. So, which means that, my bed would get hot and then cold, and then hot and then cold, and it wasn't able to regulate its temperature properly. So I had to figure out, okay, what's going on here? So I'm like playing around with the wiring, and it's like, oh, it's working, stop touching it. Which is a common thing when you got a short or a break. It's like, oh, it's working, stop touching it. But in this particular case, it stopped working again. And it was an intermittent thing, so it's not like I nailed it down. I didn't know exactly where it was because the wire actually broke inside the shielding. And it was because there was a pinch point / high strain area. So every time my little plate would move backwards when the little hot nozzle was extruding the plastic, it would cause a pinch point, and it would pull that wire into its little coupler that it was in and be like, "Urgh." So it finally snapped inside, and I didn't know it. But eventually I found that when I was doing hand over hand on the wire, and all of a sudden I felt the wire go to 90 degrees. Now, if you are a person that likes
If you were a
silicone,
person,
if you like silicone wire, you would understand that silicone wire does not naturally want to go to a 90-degree bend. It wants to go in slow circles because it prefers that, and it's wiggly, and it's like wiggly, wiggly. Well, yeah, when you get a 90-degree
the
bend in
sound
a wire.
effects come with the wire.
Oh, I tell you. Oh, see, that was like an insert sound effect here.
Hey, you forgot your sound effect machine.
I did. I left it in the other room. Anyway,
Kids today
yeah, you can't take them anywhere.
really can't.
So I had to basically remove the wiring and replace it. Well, this is a 12-volt system, so not bad. Could be painful if done improperly. So I always encourage you to de-energize your equipment first and discharge whenever possible prior to doing any of this electrical work. I am not an expert, so please don't do anything that you
They can't see you.
hear me talking about at home.
Your face is obscured by your mic stand. Your
That's
homemade mic stand.
but that's the best thing. You can't see my face. So anyway, I had to desolder, which, here's the thing. When you have a metal plate with soldering tabs on it, it likes to take the heat and go, ah. So
Sound
you
effects
can't
included.
heat up that solder fast enough unless you have a really, really powerful soldering iron. So that is just a little thing that, you may want to consider. If you have like the El Cheapo Charlie like I do, and you sit there for 10 minutes and the solder's not melting, It's probably because it's not getting hot enough.
My most difficult soldering job actually was one of these pairs of headphones. AKG got smart because they give you like 30 feet, I'm exaggerating, of headphone wire. But what would happen was, in the studios, that someone plugged their headphones in, and they'd let the cable trail on the floor, and they'd roll over it with the wheels of their chair and either break here or break at the headphone point. So people were replacing wires or throwing them away and buying new ones and complaining to AKG. So what they did was they created a coupler point where you can just yank off that wire and get a new one.
Nice.
And they coiled it so that you can have your 30 feet and have it not take up as much space.
Even nicer.
All very good, except this coupling point in the newer models is basically a hole inside the headphone casing with 3 prongs in the inside in this pattern. 2 in the front, 1 in the back. Well, the wire that broke was the one in the back. How do you get to it?
Why? How do you get to it?
You have to take off the other 2 wires first to even get to where the other wire needs to go. And when you solder it, this is why it's my most difficult soldering job, you have to not hit the plastic with a soldering iron. Otherwise, you'll melt it, which is what I did. But I didn't melt it enough that it melted through, just enough that it left a mark, but it was annoying to me. And no one will ever see it because it's internalized, but it's a real risk when you're soldering. Also, when you're soldering speakers, like the headphone speakers, you can actually tap the speakers with your soldering iron because, well, they're metal and then they're magnets, and your soldering iron is metal, and you can do damage that way. You can actually burn out your cone because heat travels along conductive surfaces like metal, which will heat up the entire speaker if you're not careful. So always be cautious of that. Also, if you have a cell phone and you're setting it out and you're soldering and you're doing your little soldering work, and then you just move your soldering iron out of the way without paying attention, you can actually set it on your phone and make a lovely coaster for your drinks.
Are you speaking from experience on this one?
No,
Oh, okay. Because
Thank
I was
God.
like, really?
but I almost did it. So.
I can see that.
Um,
In other words, make sure your workspace is clear of debris that does not pertain to the job at hand.
The soldering iron I had came with a very tiny little circular piece that you'd set on the table with a little bit of metal to set the tip of the iron on so it's not touching the table. Those are terrible. Try to find the coiled ones with the sponge on them because you could clean off the dirty solder with the sponge, a wet sponge, which is part of the holder, and then shove it into the coil. You don't have as many problems that way, and you're certainly not going to accidentally sit on your cell phone.
Yeah, and there's definitely a product that has basically like a double-aught steel wool in it, and it's got looks like kind of like a frog with a mouth. It's not really
Like
a
you.
frog, but it's got a mouth. Yeah, like me. And you just put the tip in there, and you can twist it and clean off the residual. It's always good to have like your soldering iron have a little bit of solder on, or a little bit of solder on the end, just to kind of preserve it, keep it from rusting and oxidizing. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you what I've
And
experienced.
that's the key. We're not experts. We're novices who do this, but we've done it with experience, if that means anything.
I've experienced much failure to get to where I am today.
I don't suggest doing any kind of wire work that involves your home, for instance, unless you have experience or an electrician to come in, because I don't want people to screw up and burn down their homes and then blame us. We're
Yeah.
talking about small electronic devices.
That are like under 12 volts.
Now, what happens if, like when I had my 3-prong, I had to remove all the wires, and suddenly your brain shuts off, and you're like, which wire goes where? You could be relieved, I guess, to know that the internet is a great source of information about wiring on everything. So if you forget where wires are supposed to go, make sure you have the model number nearby and the manufacturer, and type in wiring schematic or wiring for. Sometimes you'll find a YouTube video where somebody does the job you want to do. You can just watch it.
And if you want to do a web search on the DL without people knowing what you're looking at, I recommend DuckDuckGo.
Here we go. They're not paying us,
They're not paying us.
nor is Full Throttle, Dunkin' Donuts.
But part of this is about experience.
Superman is
Duck-
not paying us. I am.
And DuckDuckGo doesn't have
representative
the
of
same kind of analytics that like Google and those other companies
But
have.
why would you want to? You're afraid Google will know that you're looking for wires?
Let me give you an example. www.cleanscene.com is a registered website, and we've done some of the optimization for it to make sure that we get towards the top of the Google results when you search, right? Half the time it doesn't pop up there. Now you go to DuckDuckGo, and it's in the first page, first 6 searches. Now, okay, so I think this is the part where we get ready to log off, but my feature of the week is The Boys. Have you watched that?
The Boys on Amazon?
Yeah.
You love it.
Okay, so as you probably guessed, we're both somewhat dorks. Bill is much more knowledgeable in the ways of dorkage than I am.
He's a dork. I'm a fashion model.
Yeah, well, that is a fine distinction. And so if you haven't watched The Boys, this is not a spoiler by any means.
It's not a family show.
We are not, no,
Not
definitely
like, it's
no.
superheroes, you think, my kids. First episode, there's more blood than I've seen in any superhero movie ever.
Yep. So definitely not for kids. If you do have an Amazon Prime membership, though, I definitely recommend checking it out because it is actually worthwhile watching. The second season does promise to be even better than the first, which
And
is
if you're
unusual.
a fan of the original source material, the story is actually a little bit different. Well, not a little bit different, a lot bit different, but it toned down violence and an alternate close to the first chapter of the story. So if you want to check it out and you're a fan of the source material, just bear that in mind.
The other thing is that it's, in a nutshell, it is...
Help, I'm in a nutshell.
Let me out. Crack me open. It's definitely more like not slice of life, but like the reality show version of what it's like to be a hero.
I think it's what Batman versus Superman was trying to do as far as showing a public response to superheroes. Except that I think they're, believe it or not, a little more positive about superheroes mistakenly in The Boys.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting spin. I highly recommend it. I'd give it like 2 soldering irons out of 3.
Is that our new rating system?
Just for today, I guess.
2 out of 50, though. So
No, it's 2 out of 3.
I'd have to give it 2.5. Again, not a family show. Lots of language, lots of gore, lots of blood, lots of inappropriate behavior. If that's up your alley, it's perfect for you.
Lots of definite some of the visuals in that show. Like, even if they don't actually show stuff, you're like, I mean, yeah, it's bad. But it's also really
Bad
good.
meaning good.
Yes. It's like, if you like Game of Thrones, I
don't like dragon porn, so I don't like Game of Thrones.
and you like superheroes, and you, like,
We just got deranked. I said the word porn.
you did say porn. Why did you? Oh, I said it now. Oh, we're going to bleep that out. There's going to be like a little edit.
We'll leave it in because it's in reference to Game of Thrones.
Well,
Everybody loves Game of Thrones except for me, apparently.
And to be fair, I have a 3D printing machine, and on my 3D printer, that first layer, you know what the name for that is? If it comes out awesome perfect?
Pornography.
It's called first layer porn.
Doesn't surprise me.
Not even kidding.
I grew up near the ocean. It's bigger than wherever you were.
I grew up near cows.
See? Ocean's bigger.
Cows
All right,
moo.
coming up on a further exciting episode, we have a special guest coming, Garth Winslow, Raspberry Pi aficionado.
So we're going to have a stack of, like, Arduinos and Raspberries sitting on this table at some point.
Maybe. Also, if you want a sponsorship opportunity, you can go to your local Walmart and purchase Mortal Kombat, the arcade game. Has 1, 2, and 3 on it, and ship it to me specifically. You can private message us, and I'll give you the address. He would like some duct tape. That's his dream.
My dream is duct tape. Yes, I love duct tape. I don't remember the last time I used it, though, but...
Okay, well, we're going to bring this episode to a close. Parting thoughts.
Don't lick 9-volt batteries.
Don't drop your keys into molten lava, and if you do, don't reach in for them.
Mm-hmm. And don't stand in a puddle of water while working on household wiring.
And don't sleep in the subway. Have a nice time until episode 3. I know you're excited about it. You changed the color at the last minute for some weird reason.
I did.
The color of our
because it's
logo
saying,
device.
hey, we are logging off.
Oh, that's what that's for. Well, then.
But thank you
Have a
very
good one.
much for watching.